In a remote forest, Drasa wakes up to the sound of an approaching plane. She swiftly arms herself and takes position. As soon as a man steps off the aircraft, she pulls the trigger, taking him out instantly. Meanwhile, Levi, a former Marine, jolts awake from a nightmare. Seeking to clear his head, he spends the morning at the beach. His day takes a turn when he receives a cryptic message instructing him to report to the Marine Corps base immediately. Upon arrival, Levi meets Agent Bartholomew, who knows everything about him, his impressive record as an elite sniper and the fact that he has no family or close connections. She offers him a highly classified job, but provides little explanation beyond that. Meanwhile, in Lithuania, Drasa visits her father at the cemetery to mark the anniversary of her mother's passing. He has devastating news. His cancer is too far advanced for treatment, and he has decided that if he is still alive by February 14th, he will take his own life, wanting to reunite with his wife on Valentine's Day. Months later, Levi regains consciousness aboard a military aircraft, groggy from an anesthesia-induced sleep. He asks where they're headed, but the soldier accompanying him refuses to answer. His personal belongings are confiscated, and he is handed a sealed envelope, his mission orders. The plane reaches a no-fly zone, and Levi is instructed to jump and travel the rest of the way on foot. With no choice, he parachutes into an unknown mountainous region. The journey to his destination is grueling. He treks through harsh terrain, climbs rocky slopes, and camps in the wilderness, all without a clue as to where he is. Eventually, he reaches a massive gorge, where he meets JD, a soldier who has been stationed there for the past year. JD leads him to the West Tower, his new home. It's completely self-sufficient, equipped with solar power, rainwater collection, and even a small vegetable garden. Across the gorge stands the East Tower, but JD warns Levi that contact with the other guard is strictly prohibited. As JD prepares to leave, he lays out Levi's daily responsibilities: patrolling the gorge's rim, restocking turrets positioned every 600 meters, inspecting the containment fence and cloaking devices, and ensuring nothing inside the gorge gets out. He also informs Levi that communication with the outside world is limited. Radio check-ins happen once a month, and no additional contact is permitted. The only emergency protocol is a panic button, but JD has no idea what it actually does. He only offers one piece of advice: if it's ever activated, run. Before departing, JD shares a disturbing piece of history. The Gorge has been under strict military containment since the Cold War. Over 70 years ago, 3 cavalry battalions were sent inside to eliminate a threat, but none of them returned. Instead of continuing the fight, world powers decided that containment was the only option. JD warns Levi about the Hollow Men, the inhuman creatures that lurk below, before heading off to his extraction point. JD reaches the pickup site, where a helicopter arrives to collect him. As he climbs aboard, he is immediately shot in the head, his body unceremoniously dumped into the mountains. There is no leaving this mission alive. Days pass, and Levi settles into a monotonous routine, patrolling, maintaining defenses, and making his brief one-way radio check-ins, where his superiors only ask for confirmation that everything is fine before cutting the call. One afternoon, while tending the garden, he notices movement across the gorge. He raises his binoculars and sees Drasa chopping wood outside her tower. She sees him too, but neither acknowledges the other. One stormy night, Levi is jolted awake by another nightmare. Instinctively reaching for his weapon, he moves quickly, only to step on broken glass, slicing open his foot. Realizing there is no actual threat, he forces himself to calm down. Looking toward the East Tower, he notices Drasa still awake, watching him from across the gorge. But the moment she realizes he's looking back, she turns off her light and retreats inside. More time passes, and Drasa finds herself growing restless. On her birthday, she fires a single gunshot into the air to get Levi's attention. Holding up a handwritten sign, she asks for his name. Levi reminds her that they're forbidden from communicating, but Drasa doesn't care. She introduces herself and declares she can do whatever she wants on her birthday. Amused, Levi responds with his own name. Their communication continues to evolve. Drasa starts blasting music and dancing, daring Levi to dance along. He refuses, claiming he's terrible at it. Instead, he boasts about being an excellent sniper, which prompts Drasa to shoot his water bottle as a challenge. He fires back, destroying her bottle as well. She then balances a bottle on her head, daring him to hit it. But suddenly, she freezes. Something moves below the gorge, and Levi follows her gaze. That's when they see them. Twisted, humanoid figures made of branches and roots, climbing the gorge walls. Levi immediately opens fire, taking down one of the creatures. A nearby landmine explodes, sending others plummeting, but more continue to climb. Drasa grabs her machine gun, joining the fight. The creatures move with unsettling speed, but together, they eliminate the entire horde. When the attack is over, the two stare at each other across the gorge, shaken but alive. In the days that follow, Levi repairs the damaged defenses and resets the landmines. But then, he spots something unexpected, a drone flying out of the gorge. It ascends into the sky, disappearing. Winter arrives, and Levi and Drasa grow closer. They start playing chess remotely, leaving moves for each other. Levi even sets up a Christmas tree in the forest for her. They celebrate in small ways, finding moments of joy amid the isolation. On February 14th, Drasa isolates herself, visibly upset. Levi asks what's wrong, and she admits she's having a hard day. That night, unable to sleep, Levi constructs a makeshift zipline and fires it across the gorge, attaching it to a tree on Drasa's side. She secures it, only to find a handwritten dinner invitation waiting for her. That night, Levi finally crosses over using the zipline. When he arrives, Drasa welcomes him with a meal, and the two share stories of their pasts. They dance, laugh, and ultimately fall into each other's arms. But morning brings disaster. As Levi attempts to zipline back, the Hollow Men attack. A massive explosion snaps the line, sending him plummeting into the gorge. Without hesitation, Drasa grabs a parachute and jumps after him. Levi and Drasa push forward through the gorge, encountering more twisted humanoid creatures covered in bark and vines. Their movements are eerily human, yet completely unnatural. While scavenging for supplies, they stumble upon an abandoned military laboratory, its walls overgrown with mutated plant life. Inside, they find a film reel and old documents, revealing the horrifying truth. This facility was once a bioweapons research site dating back to World War II. Scientists had been experimenting with chemical warfare agents, but a massive earthquake ruptured containment, unleashing a toxic mutation that fused human DNA with plant life, warping everything trapped within the gorge. The footage shows desperate scientists attempting to contain the disaster, but it was already too late. The Hollow Men were once soldiers, the lost battalions from decades ago, their bodies overtaken by the biological horror that now dominates the landscape. The footage also reveals a private military corporation called Dark Lake, which took control of the facility long after the initial disaster. Rather than shutting it down, they continued experimenting, using the mutated ecosystem as a proving ground for their classified research. Realizing there is no way to contain the mutation, Levi and Drasa decide the only option is to destroy the gorge completely. They navigate through abandoned bunkers and weapon storage, collecting explosives and stockpiling whatever firepower they can carry. As they prepare their escape, a horde of Hollow Men closes in, forcing them into a brutal, close-quarters battle. Using every weapon at their disposal, they fight through the ruins, narrowly avoiding being overrun. Drasa suffers a deep wound, but they manage to push through, eventually reaching the base of the cliffs leading back to the surface. Levi and Drasa find an old military jeep with a functional winch and use it to ascend the gorge walls. As they climb, Hollow Men scale the rock face behind them, attacking mid-ascent. Levi is nearly pulled off the cliff, forced to fight hand-to-hand while Drasa takes out attackers with her rifle. More creatures swarm them, but Levi punctures the jeep's gas tank and ignites the fuel, triggering a massive fireball explosion that sends the creatures plummeting to their deaths. The final rope snaps, and Levi and Drasa barely make it to the top before the vehicle crashes down into the gorge. With only 5 days to confirm they haven't been infected, Levi and Drasa agree to quarantine separately before escaping together. The next morning, Levi makes his scheduled radio check-in, reporting that all systems are normal. However, Dark Lake has already detected unauthorized access to the lab, and they know Levi is lying. Bartholomew gives the kill order, dispatching a covert strike team to eliminate both Levi and Drasa before they can expose the truth. Before the kill squad arrives, Levi and Drasa initiate their final plan. They plant explosives along the Gorge's cloaking towers, ensuring the location will be revealed to satellite surveillance. As the Dark Lake forces close in, drones sweep the area, opening fire. Levi and Drasa shoot down the drones one by one, dodging machine gun fire from advancing soldiers. They detonate charges, setting off a massive chain reaction of explosions that destroys the cloaking devices. With the Gorge now fully exposed, the stray dog protocol is triggered, an automated nuclear failsafe designed to sterilize the entire site. Bartholomew and her strike team attempt to evacuate by helicopter, but the nuclear detonation engulfs them mid-air, bringing them down in flames. Levi and Drasa, still running, are caught in the shockwave. The blast throws Levi off the cliff, sending him plummeting into a river below. Days pass, then weeks. Drasa waits, hoping for Levi's return, but eventually, she accepts the worst. She leaves the country, relocating to France, where she begins a new life as a cafe worker, attempting to move on. One afternoon, as she goes about her shift, she looks up and sees Levi sitting at a table, alive. He tells her he barely survived, spending weeks recovering from his injuries before finally tracking her down. Reunited at last, they leave their past behind, finally free.